The Gatewood Cape is my favorite piece of gear, but I get a lot of crap on my thru hikes for it because people don't believe that it can actually withstand rainstorms and windstorms. This is not a real, but an OG piece of gear that was designed in the early 2000s by the founder of Six Moons Designs, and I think it's brilliant. So my goal in this video is to help people understand how to use it and give them all of the insights that I've had using the Gatewood Cape through over 10,000 miles of hiking. I've probably slept in it over a year. In this video, I'm going to go over 3 different ways of pitching it with all the little hacks that I've developed over my years of hiking, and then 3 different ways of wearing it, also with little hacks that I've developed over the years of hiking. And then at the end, I'll go over details and considerations that you need to know and that you need for preparing for a longer hike with the Gatewood Cape. And by the end, you'll be a master at optimizing and using this incredible piece of gear. And what's awesome is that it's only $120. It's ultralight, and it'll help you save so much money because rain gear and shelters cost so much, and because this is made out of sil poly, it's a perfect cheap shelter and rain gear. I hope this video encourages more people to use the Gatewood Cape, and the ones that have bought it and sort of cast it aside for a more expensive shelter, I hope it gives them the capacity to try it out again and fall in love with the same shelter that I've fallen in love with over the last 13,000 miles of hiking the last 20 years. Okay, so we're around the back of the shelter. We're gonna pitch out the back stake. And I'm doing that at the longest setting in that string. And you want to do it so that the back stake is into the wind. You want the back to be into the wind, both if you think it's going to rain or just generally, because that's the way to decrease as much wind noise as you can, which is a major issue and is even a bigger issue with some of these really expensive DCF tarps where DCF is a bit louder than sil poly. And one of my favorite things about both Six Moon Designs, but also the Gatewood Cape, is that they make the shelter out of sil poly, which has some negatives, but when you're living with a shelter, you want the fabric to feel good in your hand, and DCF just feels terrible. Ultimately, if you're a super ultralight backpacker, which is what this channel is all about, you're going to want DCF because it's the lightest. But
sil poly is incredible.
Okay, so we staked out our 2 sides in the front and the back. And now I'm going to use my pole. I got a carbon pole from Six Moons Designs that's 49 inches. Most people are going to use trekking poles. If you've watched my videos, you know I don't use a trekking pole. Sometimes I might go out and just use a stick, so I don't need this, like, I think it's 2.3 ounces. But usually I just bring the trekking pole because when it's about to rain, you don't want to really be foraging for a stick. In the top, there's this like harness thing. You want to make sure that the front string is in the front. And then place the pole into the little grommet and pull the string out. So this is having a little bit of trouble. You see how it's a little tight here? I'm going to tighten up right here. There's a tensioner on the string. I'm going to make it a little bit shorter because that'll just make the pitch better. Okay, so once you have these 4 stakeouts staked, the important thing is that you do not attach the door until you have all of the stakes out. And so I'll go and I'll stake out the last 2. And so once the last two are staked out, now I can attach the door. Six Moons Designs recently changed the clip that they have. They have this clip now as opposed to the old one. The old one I just felt like was better because it was more elegant. This looks like an afterthought. It also, it's always hard to attach this to the loop in the door. But attach it to the loop in the door, and then you just pull it down, and you've got a perfect pitch. Some things to think about once it's all pitched is there is a zipper here, and there's another loop that you can attach if it's super windy. You can attach to the clip to make sure that the door stays closed. Another thing is that you don't really need the zipper at all to get in and out. You can just like sort of pull that out and get in, and that's much easier. One of the major issues with most shelters is condensation inside from your breath and from the ground over the night. And so one of the nice things with tarps in general is that there's a lot of airflow. But with the Gatewood Cape, there's even more airflow because you can leave the top open. Also, with a lot of shelters, when there are bugs, the bugs sort of collect at the top, which is sort of gross as you're going to sleep. And so with the Gatewood Cape, they can just like go through. And then if it's raining, you just close the hood, cinch it, and that's enough. Water just doesn't get in. So it's like, these are the kinds of things, like I just really love the elegant design of the Gatewood Cape. You can also open the side door, roll it up, and there are little stretchy loops over here. They didn't need to make them stretchy, but having them stretchy just makes it so nice. I think at this point in the video, you might be thinking this is like a product placement or whatever. I only have 5,000 followers, and I don't have any affiliate link to the Gatewood Cape. So this is not me, being a shill and having a company pay for me to do a thing of their tarp. I just really love the Gatewood Cape. On the corners, there are little guy lines here. I almost never use those. Sometimes I bring a string so that, let's say I'm sleeping this way, I can pull out the guy line here, and then I can have a little bit more headroom. But over time on a through hike, I've just found that I'm lazy. You don't really need it. I'm a little over 6 feet. The Gatewood Cape works for me, except for if I have a fully inflatable air mattress. Fully inflatable air mattresses are this thick, and it brings you off the ground enough so that your face is with the fabric. So if you're 6 feet and you're going to sleep in the Gatewood Cape, you need to have either a closed cell foam or a self-inflatable air mattress. The other door also opens, and you can roll that up, but I almost never do that because I'm in my shelter to sleep and I want to have at least one of the doors down. Also, if you have this door down, there's a pocket inside that you can put things in, which is used both as a stuff sack for the shelter and when it's in poncho mode, you can use it to put things in. So it's just, I think that's one of the little brilliant things that are connected with the Gatewood Cape. Okay, so taking it down every single time, and you will forget because we all forget, you want to re-zip the zipper. And then unattach the clip. This will make it much easier to put it up once you've taken it down. Okay, so the second way of pitching it is the way that I pitch it. And that is that I pitch the two back corners, then the front, then the two front corners, and then the back. Make sure that you remember to to keep the string in that sort of perpendicular bisecting angle to the triangle, I put the pole into the grommet, pull it out, stake the front, stake those sides, and stake the back. And then lastly, as always, attaching the door. The reason that I like this way better is it just feels faster. I don't know if you could say it's less complicated, but I've found that staking the backs out first has just worked more. So try for yourself. Once you have it all set up, you can move the pole in the middle to the side or to the front so that you can get a little bit more sleeping room, so you can get closer to the front and further away from the back. This will work for when it's not raining, because when it's raining, you want to hunker down as close to the back as you possibly can. Okay, so the last way of setting it up, I'm not going to take down the shelter and put it back up, but the last way is that you can also start with the two fronts and then just put the front guy line in. You don't have to do the two backs. You can just do the two fronts. And so those are like really all of the iterations for setting up the Gatewood Cape. And what that means is that depending on your conditions, you can really set up the Gatewood Cape in any way you want. Starting with, as long as you can't put the two sides on and then the front guy line, but as you can start with the front guy lines without the back. You can start with the back guy lines with the back or without the back. And it's really about learning the shelter. Usually I say that you should make it so that the amount of string that you're using on these sides, the knots that you're setting it up to, are the same. But let's say you have to be in a campsite where it's at an angle. Then the ones that are on this side of the angle, if it's slanted like this, you're going to make it so that it's shorter. And the ones that are further down, you're going to make it so that it's longer. So it's about the campsite that you end up picking. And in a lot of these tent videos, they say, make sure that you find a flat campsite to put your shelter down. But the reality is, like, you're not going to have a perfect campsite each time. And so you want to adjust the way that you're pitching the Gatewood Cape to the campsite that you have. And so the last thing with the pitching that I want to show is how to lower it. One of the more important parts of lowering it is this tension knob or tensioner at the top. And so I'm going to detach the door. I made sure that it's zipped, and then I'll take down the shelter. This tensioner, say there's about 1.5 feet here of extra. I'm going to make it about 2 feet. And then I'm going to go around to each side, and I'm going to change how high up it is. And so I'm going to put it after the first knot. That way the tent is close to the ground. And I think a lot of people are really afraid of rain, and they think, if it's not fully 360-degree protection, if the tarp isn't fully to the ground, I'm going to get wet. And the reality is I've been in this shelter in some pretty serious storms with it pitched quite high, and I still stay dry. I get some splashback from the ground, but that's okay. Your down sleeping bag can get a little damp, and you can dry it in the morning. So same idea. I'm going to do something a little different to what I did last time. And that is, instead of pitching it with the string under the door, I'm going to pitch it with the string over the door. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the one way that this shelter breaks is by the zipper getting undone because of all the tension from that string from the door. And so this is just another modification to think about. At that point, I don't attach it. These I'm doing 2 knots down, and I'm making sure that the string is in line with the seam like we talked about at the beginning of the video. And then once I have 4 of the corners attached, I will attach the door to the string, tighten it up, and then I'll do the back. Close up the hood. You have the string that's coming out that's really not an issue. And now we have a shelter that's close to the ground. So if you think that there's rain coming, just take a little length off the front string and bring it to the ground. So moving on to wearing it. The first way of wearing it, I'm going to call the classic way of wearing it. And that's the way they tell you to wear it. Six Moons Designs tells you to wear it. The most important thing is that you want to detach the the center clips. You can detach all of the center clips, or you can just leave a couple that are in the back still attached, so that you don't really have to put it away. It can just stay as part of the poncho while you're wearing it, and you don't have to worry about losing it. The string won't cut you off. I mean, you won't trip on the string. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the entire clasp off, and I'm going to put it into the pocket inside. Another thing to know is that there's these little clips on either side, on the other side of where the guy lines were when it was in tarp mode. And what they want you to do is they want you to take the 2 side strings, bring them together, and that allows you to clip them in so that you bring some of the extra fabric together on either side. If you're going to do that, make sure that you don't clip them in by just going around these 2 parts like this. You want to go through. You want to go through the loops so that it's really fastened in there and it doesn't come out, because it's super annoying when you're hiking if that part comes out. I'm not going to do this. I don't do this when I'm hiking. I'm 6 feet. I think if you're under 6 feet by a bit, 3 or 4 inches under 6 feet, then it might make sense to do that. But because I'm 6 feet, there isn't so much fabric that I'd be tripping over it. So usually I furl it together to the hood, put it over my hood, and then throw it over my backpack. 2 armholes, one here and one here. Your backpack's going to be covered by it. You're going to be completely covered by it. Once you start walking, again, there's this guy line part here, and there's a guy line part here. I grab those parts in my hands, and then I can just wrap the poncho around me. And when I'm normally walking, I can just normally walk. And when I'm going through like thorn bushes or the trail gets really narrow, I can sort of just bring it in. And this just, to me, that's so much more comfortable than having everything sort of clipped in close. Another part of this, which is really great, is that there's a zipper. You can zipper this down for ventilation, but the reality is you really don't need zipper. There's more than enough ventilation, even if it's super hot out. to not sweat out a poncho like you would a rain jacket. But the zipper, what it allows you to do is get into this pocket. So if you have anything that's in this pocket, you can use that while you're hiking. You can also put your hand in, and most of us that are super ultralight backpackers are going to have shoulder strap pockets. That's where we're going to keep our phone. And so if you need to check your maps, you can take your phone out, or you can get some water, you can get some water from your backpack. The zipper just allows you to access your backpack while you're hiking. This hood is really, really basic, but it works great to get over your entire hat, which is a big deal because you don't want to get to camp and be soaked by your hat. Also, the front gets pretty far down and it covers most of your shorts, especially if you're a thru hiker and you have super short shorts. It'll cover those shorts. So pretty much everything that's fabric is going to be dry by the time you get to camp. The Superman way of wearing the poncho tarp is you unzip the entire zipper from the bottom. And then what this allows you to do is put the entire cape behind you so you can actually walk like it's a cape, like you're Superman. Why this is important is you might not think this before you get on trail, but when you're it doesn't always rain all day. Usually what happens is it rains a little bit and then it stops raining and then it rains again. And during the time that it's not raining, you don't want to be fully covered by a poncho. You want to have just as much ventilation as possible. But taking the poncho on and off can be pretty annoying. And so what this allows you to do is you can be walking with the poncho and just be as if it's not on. And then if it starts raining again, you can bring it around. It's still on you, re-zipper it, and you're good to go for when it's raining. The Three Musketeers poncho style. Take the bungee that you have from your quilt, which most of you are going to be having a quilt if you're a super ultralight backpacker, and bring it around. And you can clip it around as a belt. And what this allows you to do is if it's super cold and it's drizzling, you can really seal it up so that you get as much warmth as possible while you're hiking. One of the big arguments against poncho tarps is that rain gear is the number one reason you have rain gear is because it keeps you warm. And even if it's fairly warm out, if you're dehydrated and you get wet, you can become hypothermic. So the real reason why we have rain gear is to keep us warm. And the argument is that ponchos don't keep you warm. If you wear it in the Three Musketeers style, you're making it so that you can be as warm as possible. Also, one of the great things about a poncho tarp that you don't get with rain gear is that you have the capacity to bring your arms in, get your backpack around, take out the warm gear that you need while you're still in the poncho, and put on or take off layers as you need to, depending on how hot it is. So those are the 3 ways of wearing it and the 3 ways of pitching it. Now I want to go over considerations and details that you should know about the Gatewood Cape so that you can really utilize it as best as possible. So the most important thing that you need to know about the Gatewood Cape is that is seam sealing. You can get the seam sealing at the company. They'll do it for you, but it's not good enough. You need to do it at home, and you need to, if there is a seam anywhere, on the pocket, on the bottom, anywhere, you need to put seam sealing completely over it. And my recommendation is make it ugly. Put a bunch of freaking seam seal on it. Some of the seams have 2 sides when you're on the inside. You need to do both sides. Make sure you do both sides. So seam seal the entire thing. Do it on the outside. Do it on the inside. Really seam seal it. I wish I could show you. Look at how ugly that seam sealing is. I need to actually re-seam seal this. But you put as, the seam sealing is not going to add an ounce. It might add some grams. It's not going to add an ounce. But if the Gatewood Cape is not fully seam sealed, it'll leak. Don't get it from the company. Do it yourself. I'm going to end with that. I thought there were more considerations and details to talk to you about, but I think I actually covered that in the 3 different pitches and the 3 different ways of wearing it. This video was not a review of the Gatewood Cape because, like I said, it's my favorite piece of gear that I have. There's nothing to say about reviewing it except that I absolutely love it, and that I hope, like, this whole video was not like some product placement video for 6 Minutes Designs. This was me sort of hoping that I could put something out there that would make it so that more people buy the Gatewood Cape, because it's really made my time hiking and my time as a super ultralight backpacker much better. So hopefully this video did two things. One, it helped you to understand how to completely utilize the Gatewood Cape, but two, you were able to see like how much I love the Gatewood Cape. And I hope that wears off on you, because if it does, it means that the next time that you buy a shelter, or if you're looking to buy a shelter, you can buy a shelter that's like about $100 and have one of the best shelters there is. It packs down super small. It's light enough that it can start you on your ultralight journey. And it keeps you really safe because it allows you to change layers when you're in poncho mode. And it's a full 360-degree protection when it's raining. And I've been in this shelter in full downpours. We're talking like crazy monsoon downpours above tree line where there hasn't been any like tree coverage. And I've stayed pretty much completely dry. And some of the people that have had like more traditional tents came into our trail family group and they were completely soaked. And so, I don't know what else to say except for love the Gatewood Cape. I hope that you can experience it too, and that your friends can laugh at you as you wear it, especially in Superman mode or Three Musketeers. So thank you so much for watching this video.